دلکش رو ببین دید بزن دید بزن کمان ابرو رو ببین دید بزن آزادی چشم جادو رو ببین دید بزن دید بزن نگاه یارو رو ببین دید بزن چه سنگ بارو رو ببین دید بزن دید بزن ببین که دل بر چطور به زلف خود بر میره ببین که دل چون میشه.
As protests rage across Iran following the death of Mahsa Amini, artists are posting images in support of freedom. In September, Iranian people took to the streets after the 22-year-old died in police custody. She'd been arrested for not covering her hair properly. Despite the Iranian government's attempts to shut the protesters down, the amount of people taking part is increasing. Alongside them, artists are putting their skills to work to amplify their voices. Joining me from Cambridge is Iranian artist Soheila Sokhanvari, whose exhibition Rebel Rebel is on at London's Barbican. The show celebrates and commemorates feminist icons from pre-revolutionary Iran. Now, hello, Soheila, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, what's your reaction to what's happening in Iran?
First of all, hello, and thank you for inviting me. So first, I'd just like to say that I think I'm devastated, like many Iranians are living abroad are. And every day we just don't have any contact with our families, with our friends in Iran because the internet has been blocked. So the few times that we actually get the chance to speak to anybody there, or just we hear is like the violence and the crackdown by the government on its people. So it's just devastating.
And women in Iran have been at the forefront of the protests. From the beginning, burning headscarves and hair cutting have emerged as symbols of resistance in protest against the imposition of veils by the regime. And cutting locks of hair is an act that women around the world have actually been doing in solidarity.
For freedom.
Juliette Binoche, Marion Cotillard and Isabelle Huppert, some of the biggest names in French show business, cutting off their hair in solidarity. The campaign involving actresses and singers posted on Instagram aims to raise awareness of the ongoing protests in Iran following the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, and to show women in Iran that they are not alone.
This video shows that women have the right to wear or not to wear a headscarf, and the atrocity that a strand of hair out of place can lead to death.
From protests in the streets of Paris to a minute's silence in the French Parliament, the show of support has even spread to the European Parliament in the city of Strasbourg.
Until the women of Iran are free, we are going to stand with you. Jian, Azadi, women, life, freedom.
Cultural institutions have also joined in. This museum in Italy is encouraging visitors to cut their hair. Powerful and symbolic gestures started by Mahsa Amini's sister at her funeral and replicated by many Iranian women on social media, while the Iranian diaspora across the world call on the international community to hold the Iranian government to account.
They're fighting with all they have. The problem is that we need to stand by them. We need to make sure they have internet access. We need to make sure that they're not shut off from the world so that these deaths and these murders that happen with impunity in Iran. So we owe it to them, I think, not only to be their voices, but to ensure there are mechanisms in place to hold the Iranian authorities to account.
All of this comes after independent Iranian filmmakers published an open letter calling on those in cinema to further echo the rallying cries of Iranians for freedom.
Now, Soheila, the protests were sparked by anger over Mahsa's death. It's one of the most significant political movements that the Islamic Republic has seen since its founding in 1979. But this battle for women's rights and an end to the regime, it didn't just begin now, did it?
No, it didn't. I mean, it's been going on for many years. I mean, it started from 1980 when the hijab became compulsory in Iran. And it's not just Mahsa Amini who's died. I mean, there's 200 people who've been killed since the revolution started in about a month ago. Lots and lots of people who've been, like Mahsa, who've been arrested, and the bodies arrived in a morgue. Compulsory hijab has been like taking away our basic human rights.
And your exhibition is called Rebel Rebel. It's a series of 27 portraits of feminist icons from pre-revolutionary Iran, exploring women's lives between 1925 and the 1979 revolution. We'll talk about it in a minute, but let's take a look.
ای تو تک چراغ این شب تار این که گذشتن از کنار قصه ها نیست.
Now, Soheila, those were images of your work being shown at your show in London's Barbican. The music we heard is from the soundtrack of the exhibition, a compilation of songs by celebrated Iranian singers from the mid-20th century. Today, women are not allowed to sing for male audiences in Iran. Now, the Islamic Revolution of 1979, it toppled the Shah of Iran and established the Islamic Republic. Despite protests at the time, in 1983, wearing the headscarf became law. And since then, women have gradually lost many basic rights. Tell us about this period before 1979. Why did you want to focus on that time?
Well, I left Iran in 1978 as a 14-year-old. So I just felt like Iran froze in time for me, and it became like a fodder for my art. I don't understand Iran after I left it, because it's not a country that I've actually kind of lived in. So I thought I better make sense of the world that I lived in, and I tried to work out for myself why the revolution happened, because I was a child, and I left Iran without my family. So as my country went through a culture and an ideological change, I was just trying to make sense of what happened and why it happened.
I wanted to focus on one picture in particular. This is Ruhangis Saminejad. She starred in the first Persian language film in 1934, Law Girl. Tell us about her.
Yes. So she was born in 1916 and died in 1998. In 1934, which was 2 years before the Reza Shah actually unveiled Iranian women by force, she made the film The Law Girl in Mumbai, because in Iran it was still taboo to be seen in public without a veil on. And after the film was screened in Iran, which was hugely and greatly received by the public, she was threatened with death threats, and she was threatened with violence, and she was called names. So she actually made a second film, which is called Shirin and Farhad, which is very rebellious of her. Despite the fact that she had all these sort of death threats against her, she still made a second film, which I think that's the kind of the tenacity which I really love about these women.
And what happened to the women in your exhibition after the Iranian Revolution of 1979?
So a lot of them either had to go to exile, or they actually were silenced in their own country. They had to sign a letter of repentance. A lot of them went to prison, to Evin prison, which is the political prison in Iran. They were not all banned, and the ones that were considered chaste, they were allowed to continue in their career. And the ones that were considered to be, almost like whore-like. I'm sorry to say the word, but if you're not chaste in Islamic Republic, then you're equivalent to a whore. Farishta Janabi, who was actually received a death sentence from the government, and she actually went into hiding. And after 19 years, she died from a drug overdose. And I think this pressure, this kind of like a ban was actually put on the women. It wasn't put on the men. So I think it was the women that became martyrs of the revolution.
Well, we actually went to Iran with the Culture Show in 2016 to make a programme about artists there. We spoke to a painter, Homa Arkani, who talked about the challenges of being an artist in Tehran. She's now living in Belgium, and we caught up with her again, and she told us why artists are such a threat to the regime.
I think the government already knew that the artists, the writers, filmmakers, they are the voice of the people. They can say something that is not by words. It's like the picture, the connection between people and the society can be much, much easier and more effective. These people, they have a lot of followers. Their voice would be much louder to the society. So they want to shut down these people to not to have their own, voice, not to bring awareness to society.
Now, Soheila, why do you think Iran locks up its writers, its artists, and its filmmakers?
Well, in August, the cultural minister for artistic affairs, he said that the government would crack down, does not support any artist who actually does not toe the line with the Iranian Islamic Republic's ideologies on art and production. Any artist that actually goes against the Islamic Republic's ideologies and principles, they would risk anything from being banned, censored, all the way to being arrested and to being kind of tortured and imprisoned. So I think that I totally agree with the artists that you interviewed. I think it's a difficult thing which artists that live in a autocratic countries that have to kind of manipulate and kind of do mental gymnastics to actually make art which talks about the plight of people or about the antagonism.
Soheila Sokhanvari, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. Now, your exhibition, Rebel Rebel, is on at the Curve at the Barbican in London until the end of February. We're going to play out with a viral song that has become the unofficial anthem of the protests. Singer Shervin Hajipour's Bare, which means because of, puts together tweets by demonstrators. Hajipour was reportedly arrested days after it was posted to Instagram. He's now said to have been released on bail. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. See you next time.
برای غرصای حساب و بیخوابی، برای مرد میهن آبادی، برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود، برای زن زندگی آزادی.